Hey, good afternoon to everybody. Happy Saturday. It's Daryl here. It is not so bright and freaking early. It's 3:30 p.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. You're probably going to be watching this video Sunday morning, so happy Sunday. It's Daryl here, and it's bright and freaking early, 5 a.m. I've already downloaded 2 videos Saturday, so I highly doubt I'll be downloading this one. This has to do with Danny Masterson again, and I'm not rehashing this. This is something I really feel the need to talk about. Some new stories have popped up, and there's quite a conversation going on Twitter. And it's not exactly about Danny Masterson. It's actually about the people that sent letters in, his former castmates that sent letters in his favor, and the one who didn't. And it's kind of odd how this is all working out now. Let me fill you in. There'll be links right down below. Okay, one of the first stories down below is about Topher Grace. This was Eric Foreman on the 70s show. And going back to when the 70s show was on the air back in the late 90s to 2006, I believe, there was a lot of stories going around, like on E! Hollywood or whatever, Entertainment Tonight. There was a lot of gossip that Topher Grace considered himself too good to hang out with the other 3 guys. Danny Masterson, Ashton Kutcher, and Wilmer Valderrama. The 3 of them would go out after production would shut down, and they'd go out for the night and party on the town. As a matter of fact, I'll probably use some of the pictures from the TMZ site. And Eric, I was going to call him Eric Foreman. Topher Grace was really more. They actually used the word introvert in this story. Okay, so they kind of put him down for being that guy that didn't want to hang out with his friends, that thought he was too good for him or whatever. And now it's kind of flipped. And I'll put a link down below. There's this conversation going on Twitter, and there's just literally hundreds of comments, and they're all in favor of Topher Grace, because he is one of the few castmates that did not send a letter to the judge trying to say, be lenient on him. He's such a great guy, the rapist. So now Topher Grace is being looked at as having the smarts to do his own thing and go on, do his own thing regardless of what other people say, not jump on the bandwagon, not give in to peer pressure. And it's amazing. The link down below from X or Twitter is probably the best one for you guys to look at, because I was reading comment after comment after comment after comment talking about Topher Grace and just nothing but these great things. And part of me is a little angry that it takes something like this to see that somebody made somebody was just being themselves, and they took a beating for it back then, and now everybody is in favor of this. I don't feel comfortable with the way the wind blows like that, but there's all these comments in favor of Topher Grace now. On the other hand, especially Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher, and I'm not sure, those 2 sent multiple letters into the judge in favor of please be lenient on our friend. He was a good guy. And now that's just not coming off very good at all. These guys are looking at they're looking like big a-holes for sticking up for the convicted rapist. And there's a lot of memes or whatever you call them about people being concerned what happens to the guy in this case, and not being concerned about the victims, and that's a good point. As far as Laura Prepon, she played I can't remember, the next door neighbor, Topher's love interest. I can't remember. Donna. She played Donna. There's no word yet. She's kind of MIA. She hasn't sent any letters in or anything. But it's kind of just weird the way the winds have changed. Ashton Kutcher was always this great guy and everything, and these 3 were pals and hanging out on the town, and now it's turned into this whole different thing where Topher Grace, the quiet introvert who people thought, I hate that because I label myself an introvert. And as soon as that's the point I want to make it to this. So down below, there's going to be the X or Twitter page with all these comments. And then there'll be the two different stories from TMZ about one about Topher Grace, the people speaking in favor of him, and then there'll be an article down below from TMZ about the people kind of getting nasty about those people trying, Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher sticking up and sending all these letters in favor of Danny Masterson. And like I said, the way people's opinions change like that doesn't make me feel comfortable. I wish people would be able to recognize goodness, the right thing to do. Like, not bashing on Topher Grace just because he was an introvert. When I read this story, you guys know I usually do. I talk about stories on here that I can relate to, that I have, that I've have experience in, and I definitely have experience in this. Let me just talk briefly about that. Back in high school is when I first started using and drinking and everything, and I got more. I was an addict. And the more I got into, after high school, my friend one went to Syracuse University. Went off to Jimmy Swaggart Bible College. I did a video about that. After we tripped one night, he became born again and went off to Jimmy Swaggart Bible School, and he's a reverend now with 5 kids. My other friend went into the Army and then went into college, and he owns his own landscaping business now and several businesses. And me, I stayed in town. I went to a trade school, but I continued messing around with drugs, and I started dealing. And then I started smoking crack, and then, honestly, my friends from high school distanced themselves from me, and they kind of grew up, and at that point, I started hanging around with some guys that were partying, that were a little younger than me, about 5 years younger than me. And to be honest with you guys, the only thing that we had in common was drugs and alcohol and partying and drinking. And we did that. I hung out with these guys for a good 20 years. When I went to get clean and sober, this is how I could relate to Topher Grace. I had to completely get rid of my friend. I turned my back on everybody I used to hang out with. A lot of them got very angry with me. They said, they called me an introvert. Do I think I'm too good because I'm clean now? Some of them got clean too, but I did a video talking about this, that I don't want to I really, in my heart, I don't want to hang out with any of them. And it's not because I think I'm better, but if I look back, all we had in common, all we did every time I went out with these guys that I hung out with for 20 years, the only thing we did, the only thing that it centered on was drugs and alcohol, and maybe some music, or maybe going to a concert or a car show, but it was always a base of alcohol. Let's get the alcohol, let's get the drugs. That's all we had in common. That's what held us together. If there was no alcohol and drugs, we didn't hang out. That's the honest truth of it. So once I decided to get clean and sober, I just had to ask myself, why would I really? Why are these even my friends? All I had in common with them was alcohol and drugs. And to this day, a lot of them still speak badly of me because of this. That I think some of them got clean, and then they wanted to hang out with me, and I explained to them that I don't know if we were ever really friends. I don't know if we ever really had anything more than drugs and alcohol in common. And then the fact that I did a video about this too, that it wasn't them, a lot of times my friends, but they were triggers for me. I did a video not too long ago talking about how I hung out with this guy one day. I gave him a ride to work, and there was no drugs involved. He was clean at the time, I was clean at the time, but I heard him laugh, and we were talking in the car, and I was driving to work just for 10 minutes. I dropped him off, and his laugh, I just kept thinking about it. It reminded me of these old times we had, and I relapsed. This is one of the times I relapsed before October 23rd, 2006, when I finally got clean and sober. But this is one of the times before that I relapsed, and I realized right at that point that all the people I used to hang out with were now triggers for me. Not because they were bad people, not because they were trying to put it in my face or tempt me, but they were just triggers. I changed my phone number. And I was adamant about it, and I still am. I had to remove them from my life, and it reminds me a lot about Topher Grace. And since then, I've gotten my own art business. I've discovered my artistic talents. I've had this YouTube channel. I've gotten involved in exercise and biking. I've gotten involved in recovery, doing silent auctions with my art, and and I've grown so much more as a person. And there just isn't room. I have no room in my life for the people that I used to hang out with now. We had nothing in common. And then there was the girls that I dated back then. And a couple of them, like one is a counselor now, and she got clean and sober and everything. She also went to jail for 7 years. And, she tried to contact me for about a year, showing up on my bike ride, showing up at where I lived. And I kept telling her that I can't hang out with you. I don't want to hang out with you. That's all even when I dated her, that's our whole life, our whole existence revolved around drugs and alcohol. So this is one of the hardest, but it was one of the best things I ever did. Reminds me of Topher Grace, just removing people from my life that I knew were not good for me. And it wasn't necessarily because they were bad people, but it was just because I knew that we didn't have much in common to begin with. And the only thing that they were triggers for me was the second thing, and even with the women that I dated. And then I started dating women that were actually strong and intelligent and business-minded and actually were going places, like Audrey and the girl before her, Paula. And it built up a lot of confidence in myself. And I feel like I've actually started growing again. I kind of stopped growing emotionally and mentally back when I was 14 or 15, when I first started using. And once I hit 40 and got clean again, it feels like I'm actually trying to catch up mentally, emotionally, financially, to where I'm supposed to be, for those guys that I went to high school with, where they are now, owning their own homes and all this other stuff, with families and grandkids at this point. But I know that I had to, and I'm comfortable being an introvert, and I think that's one of the reasons why I succeeded at this too. I'll talk more about this in a future video. I just wanted to share this with you guys because this is a pretty big conversation going on right now on Twitter. Like I said, that link will be right down below. That's the one I urge you to check out. It has all these comments about Topher Grace. And like I said, 20 years ago, he was getting beat up. He was getting, bad-mouthed for being an introvert, for not hanging out with the crew. And now it's the opposite. Now he's a great guy, and he's doing the right thing, and he's got a great heart and all this other stuff, which is true. But it's too bad people didn't realize that back then. All right, let me know what you think. I'll be back later with another video. Have a good Saturday or Sunday.